All right, we are live on X with a world famous biotech scanner, Dragon Fam. I feel like once Anafilm's approved, we got to get some merch, some
Yeah.
unofficial Aquestive Therapeutics merch. If they don't do it, we'll do it, and we'll be the merch. And maybe that party, it started as a joke, but I think if we get an approval, we got to figure something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But biotech scanner, for those of you that don't know, the man's a legend. You guys probably all do know him. He gets a lot of, I think, unfair criticism for only being optimistic, right? And I think there's enough. I don't want to speak for him, but there's enough short sellers on most of these picks of his that you don't need to reiterate all the possible negative things. And what people I don't think do respect you for is the amount of research you do. So for you to, like, when you send me a ticker, right, like on X, like everyone else, and then I go do my due diligence on that company, like IOVA or like I did with AQST, I'm starting ahead because I'm not looking at all the crap you didn't send me.
Right.
Right? And I don't think people appreciate like just the amount of work it takes, not just to do the due diligence when you've identified a stock, but to get to that point.
Yeah.
Is like people accuse you of pumper, and I mean, maybe, you know, they might feel like they need to say that because you are very optimistic about these things, but I don't think people give you the credit for the work you put in just to get to the point where you start talking, positively about some of these stocks. So I think people need to give you respect in that regard. That's a lot of work, man. Even when you sent me IOVA on the X, I saw it. I'm like, okay, let me go deep. I did about 5 hours of research, but that's not. I mean, I already knew the stock.
Uh,
How
yeah.
many hours you do before you even find an IOVA or a AQST or a Rocket Labs or some of these things? I mean, that's hours and hours that nobody will ever know about.
Yeah. So there are so many different um resources, and basically I subscribe to all of these news channels and things like this. And so a lot of times the ticker would pop up, and they recommend this and recommend that. And so if it looks interesting to me, I'll dig deeper into it. But the entire process could take months and months. And sometimes there's a ticker that I'm about to release, and then something happens, then I would pull it back. Okay. And it could take another year before I decide to release it or invest in it, and things like that. And then once I have decided that the risk reward is worth investing, then I invest. I announce it to everyone else, and then and I believe that once you put that much research and your own money into it, you have the right to talk as positively about it as you want, right? And anybody else on X or whatever, any ticker that you have invested in, you have the right to be positive about it. You have the right to be negative about it. Okay. So as with any investing, there are risks involved, and that's automatic. That's nothing new. But what people genuinely see from my tweets are positive. Because why? Because I already done my homework. There are much more positive things about a company than there are negative. So I focus on the positive, and then on the negative, I don't want to have to try. You know why? Because the short seller is already doing that for me. So why would I do them a favor? Now, that being said, when there's risk involved, I do share it. Hey, this could happen. That could happen. Hey, sales revenues were not good this quarter. Um,
Yeah.
it needs to get better next quarter, and I do all those things.
Let
Okay.
me share something with you guys to show you all This is something funny I put on my LinkedIn yesterday and Twitter. The life cycle of a small cap biotech. Just invented a groundbreaking biotech drug. Phase 1, great idea, but it's just a dream. Phase 2, too small a sample. These are all shorts talking at different times. Phase 2, too small a sample. Sites will never recruit. Endpoints won't show efficacy. Nice try. Phase 3, market's too crowded. Good luck getting approval. Then FDA approver, payers won't touch it. Then launch, sales teams weak and the patents expiring. Then after 1 billion in sales growth capped, time to panic. It's just always going to be an opportunity to be
But
negative on these things.
yeah, and you have to put things in context. Who are these people? Okay, so they are accusing me of being a pumper.
Yeah, you get
Then
accused of
you
that a
have
lot.
to examine. Okay, so if you are a neutral party into this, you saw what somebody said something negative about me, about a ticker. I'm saying something positive about this ticker, right? The way to examine this is examine my content. What I posted about this ticket to back up my opinion versus their thesis, and what have they presented versus mine.
Right, right. Yeah.
So
There was a guy on StockTwits talking shit specifically about you and about me because I'm on StockTwits. And he's saying, you're always interviewing a biotech scanner, and yeah, you do try to offer like, the other side of the spectrum, but you guys never analyze. And then he goes into like such specific things where it's like we're analyzing Eli Lilly. They're talking about projected cash flows into the future. I'm like, bro, we're looking at like a small cap there is no projected cash flow past 2026. What are you talking about? This is all or nothing on this approval at this point. Like these guys, they use correct frameworks for different companies to
well,
prove their theories.
yeah, there are three types of people who are bearish on stocks. Okay, one is a frustrated investor who have sold for a loss. It can get really nasty with them. And number two, um, they're short. And so what I'm doing is detrimental to them. Okay,
Yeah.
you have to understand that. Okay, and then number three, and this happens a lot. They are actually my followers. And when I announce the ticker, a lot of times it's already gone up 10, 15, 20%. They have to try their best to get in at a lower price. So they're going to be
Okay.
making some random bearish statement, hoping to create some negative sentiment so they can get in at a lower price. And I see that all the time because there's one day they're really bearish, and then the next day, oh my God,
Keep
this
your keep your
company.
enemies keep your enemies close and your followers closer.
Yeah.
But not to get too sidetracked with the short haters, because fuck them at the end of the day. But the new FDA, all right. I got Head of CBER right here. The book, I'm about halfway through, more than halfway through. You get into the guy's thought process, exactly what he's thinking, and then I got Macary's book on my Audible. So I think it's required reading or listening if these guys, they're literally giving you the contents of their brain and their thought process. Doesn't mean it's going to be a rule, but it's pretty close hint to what they're looking for, and it's pretty important. And you're bullish on this. This new FDA was bearish initially.
Yeah, I was bearish. I look at them from a bearish point of view at first as well, and I have to give you credit because you start pointing out, say, hey man, I mean they seem to be pretty reasonable and pretty pro small business and small companies here, and so I started listening to them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, and so yeah, and that conference that they had with cell and gene therapy,
The round table, yep.
the round table. Well, there's a reason for that. You know why that is, Dan? Because the cell and gene therapy people thought Dr. McCary and Dr. Prasad were after them. So they said, no, 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 no. Let's talk about this, right? Let's
Yeah.
talk about this. Let's, you know, let us, you know. So they were saying in the round table that we appreciate what you do. You're the ones that actually trying to bring cures to diseases,
Cures.
to rare diseases, and a lot of your treatments are one-time treatments, which at upfront costs more, but yet long term it actually saves the healthcare system money. And so we want to support you. We want to be transparent. We want you to apply in your application to be more condensed, to be shorter, because you
Yeah.
already know exactly what we want. We want more communications. And
Prasad just mentioned that on a pod yesterday or 2 days ago with yeah, some of these one-time treatments are 4 million, but when we talk to the payers and we tell them you're actually saving 2 million,
yeah,
now they're interested. So this guy's I've once I read that book, I'm like, no, no, everyone's because of the anti-vax people, and we're not going to get into that, but they write them off as anti-science, which is this narrative that's like so sophomoric. You got to read. These are hemo-oncologists. In the case of Prasad and McCary, a surgeon, onco-surgeon. Like, these
yeah,
are not stupid
you know.
people. They're rigorous in their thinking.
Yep. So they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They've known each other. Actually, they wrote a paper together,
Mhm.
and so um, and they actually want to make it easier. They want to trim regulations to make innovation in biomedical easier in the United States, so companies don't ship their stuff to China, clinical trials and stuff like that to China. And they were very explicit about that. They said, no, you can use data from China as references, but you want your drug approved here, the trial's got to be done here. Most of the data has to come from here, which
Right.
makes perfect sense. I wouldn't trust clinical trial from Vietnam, India, or China. And I
Well,
want
you saw what happened with Summit, and
yeah,
when they replicated the study here, it didn't exactly replicate. Now, it may be fraud. I don't think it's fraud. I think it's genetic differences, and maybe I mean I'm giving them benefit of the doubt.
I for me, I think it's wrong. You know,
Then the data wasn't that far off, but it was not acceptable enough of a like
no,
correlate.
no, yeah, and I remember it took off like 1,500%,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
or
Well, I know people that
5,000%.
work there. I know people, and they've been telling me buy the stock, and I was like, not till it's here. I don't like this Chinese data.
Yeah, yeah. And people asked me about that ticker a
Hmm.
while back, and I said, I'm
I
not
think
taking.
I asked you about it too,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. I'm like, yeah. I think I may have told you. I said no, not
Yeah,
Chinese data. I'm sorry. You know. Um,
we were on the same page with that one.
yeah, and people don't know this, but I'm actually pretty risk averse. I don't like to take a lot of risk, even though I like to invest in biotech. But that tells you, if you look at from 2 years ago to now, I don't release a lot of tickers
Mm.
because um, there's so much risk. You know,
I haven't followed you enough. Do you tell people when to get out, or
no, I
no?
don't, because and I've learned this from other people on Twitter. Like some of them's got like um, 300,000 or 400,000 people. And here's the thing, it's a two-edged sword. Okay, I can tell you when I bought it. I can, you don't trust me on this. You don't want me to tell you I've sold it. Okay, you don't want it. You know
Hmm.
why? Because other people will do it too. Okay, and you
Yeah,
create horrible sentiments for the community. Okay,
right, right.
and this is why when I find a ticker, I release a ticker. You have to do your own thing. You have to do your own research. You have to decide when to buy. You also have to decide when to sell. Now, there are people on X who say, "Oh, or Discord, I always tell my followers when I sell because I'm honest." Oh, really? How do you know?
Right.
How do you know that guy sold at that price? How do you know? Did he send you a screenshot of
Well,
that
even those
particular
can
transaction?
be. I mean, AI can fake a screenshot now. Like
See, that's
you,
why I'm saying, but you should never have to rely on it. You should independently research that ticker
yeah,
and decide when
yeah,
to buy and when to sell. Now, if you have to rely on somebody like me telling you when to buy and when to sell, that means you're not ready for trading. Okay, and you have to be honest with yourself. When you are that dependent on someone, you are not ready for trading. Okay, so yeah, now what I tell you though is what is good value. Okay, to me, when I say good value, I share that. Okay, but I'm not going to tell people, oh, and I hate it when people do this. They have a bunch of followers and then said, oh, I'm out. I sold it. I made this much profit. They kind of brag about it. I'm like, hell, what about the rest of his followers? You know?
humble bragging.
Yeah. And
I
so,
appreciate it. So you're gonna stick to now during interviews like this. I mean, you might drop hints like, "Hey, I'm like less excited about it," or I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe people have to read between the lines. Like when you stop posting so much, maybe that means something, or maybe you just took a vacation. I don't know.
There's some good example. IVOA is a very good example and I'll share you my story when we get it to it
Yeah.
later on. But let's transition to
Yeah.
AQST. Okay.
Okay. So anything left with the FDA or just
No, just
bare?
very yeah, just very bullish
Okay.
stand. I believe that with the current market condition going on, it's pretty favorable, and I'm start seeing more rotation into biotech again.
Yep.
And so I'm very excited about biotech, um, again. And I feel like accuracy and really with this leadership at the FDA, Ivans is going to be a huge beneficiary of that because they have so many clinical trials going on, and that's kind of part of the DD I'm sharing later on. But
Okay.
but yeah, but it's very bullish, overall for biotech.
All right. Everybody go get those books and then yeah, AQST, my favorite because it's the OG,
Yep,
you know.
it's this one a question. I can't wait until we come to the conclusion of this story. But that will not take place until late January or early February, which is a PDUFA date, possibly, and full approval. But right now, what what is going on with Aquestive right now? What can we expect in the near future? So some really important catalysts coming up. All right. So one being, you should know that by now, is that the NDA decision from the FDA, the new drug application from Aquestive, decision should come on by June the 14th. Now, the 14th falls on a Saturday this year. Okay.
Yeah.
So we could get it on Friday the 13th,
Nice
or
day. Nice day.
the decision could come Saturday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the NDA acceptance. I do have an anecdotal. I was gonna tweet about this, but I was gonna save it for us talking. So I work in the biotech space. I'm a service provider for biotechs, and then I talk to a lot of people that do work at biotechs. I am getting anecdotal evidence, not of AQST, but of other biotech companies whose NDA decisions are getting a little bit delayed because the FDA is going through some turnover and there's some chaos. So I do see a world where if June 17th comes and there's nothing, like the stock dips a little.
Uh-huh.
I personally, if I see that, I don't think so, but if I see it, I'm using it as opportunity to buy more. So there is a world where I think that might happen and people freak out.
I
It's
You know what?
possible. It's anecdotal.
Um, Even though I have a lot of AQST shares, as you know,
Yeah.
I I do have I still have quite a bit from selling big tech, stocks for profits. I have a lot of dry powder on hand. If there's a delay and there's a drop, hallelujah. So I I'm ready
I
for.
don't have I don't have that much dry powder, but if I will find a way if that happens, because
Yes,
it's just a technicality at this point.
yeah, yeah. And it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me when things like that happen. And this is why 99% of retail investors lose. Why? Not strong enough mental toughness. When there's something negative going on, they sell. They sell, they run. Okay. And then when one retail person sell, it affects other. It's kind of contagious. And the reason my average is so low right now is because of that. After the Q1 earnings, when we all knew the reason that we bought the QST is not earnings, even
That was
though,
brutal, man.
yeah,
Even the best of us were getting,
yeah,
I'm human. I get those emotions too. But,
yeah, yeah,
you said mental toughness. I think it's one of the cures for that is studying and being convicted.
yeah.
And if you study and you're not convicted still, then you should not be in it.
And especially in biotech, when you don't spend that much research or you don't spend enough research to have that strong of a conviction, you're relying on someone, and then when things don't go well, you run. Okay,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you get frustrated and you start want to sue the company, things like that. Okay,
People think the efficient market theory works for these small caps, and it doesn't. If it doesn't work in any of these companies, it's especially in these ones. So, like, you're gonna get inefficient pricing on the downside and on the upside. Quite honestly,
correct, correct. So the NDA. I believe that we should find out by this Friday.
yeah.
Okay. And if not, Monday. So we'll wait and see. By looking at the price action, I think people are getting nervous that it may be delayed. Um, it should
They might, yeah.
it should AQST should be about $4 right now. To be honest with you.
So you don't think the acceptance is priced in?
Oh no,
No. That's
no,
another theory people have, that it's priced in.
no, no.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
It's that those are shorts talking. Okay. That
The shorts are everywhere, man.
okay. Think about this. Think about this. Last year at the phase after the phase 3 trial, positive data got to 623. Since then, we had 4 trials that were net positive results. And we have all of these things built more than that, but it's still at 2 something, right? It's crazy. It's not priced in.
And
Okay.
we're happy at these prices.
Yeah. So anyway,
No,
uh,
I think it's like three. Well, I don't know, 359 today. I think it closed. I've been busy today. I didn't look, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
above my average.
three. It was at 365 at one
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
but it
After
took us
hours
to
is
350.
367. My average is 318 for anyone that cares. Not
Yep.
too many do.
Mine was 273, but because of the big drop after Q1, mine is 228.
Hey, man, that's not bad.
So
So you got
so
NDA, Acceptance hopefully coming soon. If it's any delay, I think people will panic a little bit, but it should come soon.
Yeah, and so the FDA NDA decision will come, and in that letter, it may inform the company if there's AdCom or not. Okay, now this is really an interesting situation, investment wise, because typically in biotech, when um, an AdCom is announced, the price would drop. And for AQST, it did drop initially a long time ago when the FDA said we may require you, because during the pre-NDA meeting, and the FDA said we may require you to do an AdCom because of the new method of delivery. Okay, so uh, but usually it's a negative thing, but for a question, it's actually positive because it provides an additional catalyst that is very powerful. Because if you look at the history of Spry that makes Nephium, the day um, that AdCom recommended, and Nephi to be approved, it went up like 40 or something percent that day, like
Yeah.
50%, and went down to 37. It went up quite a bit. Okay. So without the AdCom announcement, we're gonna miss out on that catalyst. However, if the FDA says, based on the data we've seen, we no longer we don't need the AdCom. And that is extremely bullish because it confirms to the company that their data package for NFL is the most robust package of any epinephrine drug ever produced to the FDA. Okay, it's got almost 1,000 doses of NFL given to trial volunteers. That's a lot of people that's taking NFL, and you know what? Very well tolerated and is safe. Nobody ever taken NFL and require medical intervention to address any adverse event. You cannot wish for a better trial than that, to have a drug that works well and the side effect profile is exactly as you want it. And
Yeah.
so anyway, now
Yeah, the
there
market cap for, just while we were mentioning Spry, so ARS, $1.4 billion market cap, whereas AQST is like 300 something.
it
And the
is
cash on hand, okay, AQST has like 65 million on the balance sheet, and Spry has like 275, but that's still trading well above their cash on hand price. So the valuation's not exactly equal yet, and that's
I
because of it's not approved yet.
but this is why I'm still pounding the table that AQST is at this price is a tremendous investment opportunity.
Yeah.
You have to do your own research, but I'm telling you right now, last year, after only phase 3 trial, that is not even as good as the Oasis trial, because Oasis trial is actually real life
The Oasis might have been the best epinephrine study in history of
ever,
research. Yeah.
ever. So after phase 3, it got to 623.
Yeah.
Okay, and here we are at 360 something,
Yeah.
350 something. It's ridiculous. It's not pricing, I promise you. And
Yeah.
once NFL, I can guarantee you, once NFL is approved, the market cap of AQST will eventually surpass that of ARS. I guarantee you, because NFL will be adopted so quickly. on the market. I'm telling you, I have 19 years of experience in this field. I
Yeah.
know this. I know this. That it's right now. It's between Neffy and the needles, but both of them are devices. The next battle will be no longer between needle-free, and non-needle. I mean, non-needle and needle. The next
Hmm.
battle is going to be device and non-device, and there's only one non-device. There's only one oral, and that's Anafilm. It will capture at least 75% of the market globally. I think in Europe the adoption is going to be even faster than here. Once
Why
they
they have more
over
allergies
there.
there, or what?
I'm sorry.
They have more allergies there, or what?
No, no, no. I feel like I don't know. I feel like in Europe a lot of times they adopt to new technology faster.
Ah, okay.
Here, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
can
they
tell the
have,
excitement is out. Like the
yeah,
investments that these guys put in have been towards these advocacy groups. Whereas, retail gets mad. Why aren't they doing more podcasts, for investors? It's like, well, they're actually spending their limited resources and they admit they have a limited if they didn't have a limited resource, they'd be working on 108 right now too,
yeah,
right? Like that'd be in phase 2 right now.
yeah, yeah. So basically, any day now
Hmm.
that we should hear something on the NDA, and I'm telling you, one of the bravest people. There are two types of brave investor right now. One are AQST shorts.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be shorting the stock right now. The risk is
That's
astronomical.
like suicidal. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and then the other are the investor in ARS or Sprite is also they are also very brave.
Is
Be-
it stupid to try to invest like have an insurance in that one? Because I think there's a case to be made to it's maybe worth owning that one too, just to have both of the. I think they both kind of help each other in a way. No,
no, to me, the risk reward is not in my favor.
no,
Okay.
I know, I know.
Be-
More
be-
like
be-
insurance, like a hedge.
well, okay. Let's say this. Let's say the NDA is rejected for Aquestive. Okay. Um, AOS, Sprite may move up 1 or 2% on that day. But if the NDA is approved for NFL, I can see a 10% drop in Sprite.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So the risk reward is not in my favor. Okay.
Mm.
Same thing when it comes to PDUFA. The full approval, I would not be holding shares of Sprite for that moment, or I would not be shorting. Definitely would not be shorting a question then.
No, that's yeah, that's
Uh,
foolish. That'd be foolish.
yeah, because again, let's say because if NFM is approved, okay, or rejected, Sprite would move up 6, 7, 8%. But if NFM is approved, I can see a 25, 30% drop. I mean, it's
Possibly, yeah.
yeah,
I think
because
there's a world, it's a lower probability, but a world where they both kind of go up together. But AQST obviously has way more to catch up on, and so
yeah,
that's a faster.
yep,
Just so that before we move on, well, I know there's probably more you want to talk about AQST, but my concern, and to appease the people saying you're a pumper, my concern would be, let's say it gets approval, right? Market cap hits $1 billion for AQST, but now let's say they don't have a partnership yet or something and they have to raise money, they're going to dilute. That's like their only choice, right? And so that's the fear of of a lot of these with any biotech that has low cash on hand is, well, when market cap increase, they can, do ATM and it's going to dilute. That's always the fear, I think, for what's the probability in your opinion that we see something like that happen in the
okay,
near future?
yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good question. But before I answer that question, you also have to consider who these people are that are on StockTwit and Twitter, tweeting about, or posting about dilution possibilities.
Well,
Do
yeah,
you
we
think
know who they
investors
are.
are? Do you
Yeah.
think aggressive investors are doing that? No, they're shorts. But I will address them Okay. So one of the tickers that I shared with you a while back, and it's done wonderfully, and it's not biotech, it's Rocket Lab.
Love that one too.
You know how many times they have diluted? A bunch. A
Hmm.
bunch. Many, many companies, they people view dilution as a curse, but how would the company grow? They want the drugs to be approved. They want a successful launch. But hell no, don't be raising money on my watch. Okay.
So you're saying it's a cost of doing business. Like that's kind of how I see it too.
It's listen to me. When there's small biotechs have what's called ATM at the market, they shelf offering. They dilute, you don't even know. Okay, you don't feel it in the price, and that's what happened to Rocket Lab.
Hmm.
They're raising funds. Last quarter, they raised what 300 or 400 million. Did I feel it? Hell no, I made a lot of money on it, right?
Sure, sure.
And so like for example, I mean,
Ideally, the market cap continues to grow, and it doesn't matter, right? That's
it doesn't matter.
yeah.
I'm telling you, as long as we keep moving from A to B, as long as keeps progressing, okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because these people are raising fears of dilution. What they want you to do is they want you to not look at the your long term goal. They want you to sell out of fear because they said, don't do it. They're going to dilute. Don't do it. They're going to dilute. You know what? NVIDIA diluted too. Microsoft diluted too.
Yeah.
Rocket Lab diluted too. Hood, one of my favorite, diluted too.
Amazon diluted back in the day.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Nah, I
am
know.
telling you.
We have to
Okay.
address because the haters do instill fear in the real investors.
Yes, yes, but you combat that with research. You know as much about the company as you can.
Oh, they
They
rely on
they
you for this.
they sneeze and you know. Okay, I mean
You know,
you
man. You
have
know where
no
they are.
idea.
You
So
probably know what they bought for
then
lunch at the
my
conferences.
phone,
Yeah.
anything related to AQST, bam. Anything related to IOVANs, bam. It's
Well,
all,
even to that group, the PR firm. What is it, Star or what's their name?
yeah.
The
ASTR.
ASTR.
Yeah. I mean, how did I find out about stuff like that? I'm
I didn't
telling
even know that company existed till you brought it up.
Yes, and I'm telling you that okay, so the other big catalyst that's coming, and this is why I believe that after approval, it's gonna be in the low teens to high teens because not just the approval. And somebody said that after the NDA, they may announce partnership.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Charles Littleton. Shout out to you.
okay, yeah. So very, it's a possibility. Now, however, I believe that after the NDA, the conversations will intensify. Okay, and they probably agree on a lot of things, but they're not going to announce it until the full PDUFA date, a full approval.
Is that to keep the acquiring company or the partnership protected? Like they
Yeah, and it's more professional that way because you announce a partnership after the NDA and then you get a CRL. It's kind of embarrassment to the company and the partner. So this is why you don't a lot of time after NDA you typically don't see announcement of partnership or buyout until after full approval. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
there's a chance, but I'm not counting on that. But
Are we gonna hear rumors or like controlled rumors or because they could have already been doing that. I mean, at the calls, they've been dropping kind of hints. Barber
Well, no, 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 no.
kind of mentioned,
Actually, Dan, the conversations are already happening right now.
right, right, and he mentioned them.
He mentioned then
Yeah,
Q3 earnings last year.
yeah.
Okay, because Dan said that there's been phone calls, and then on the Q1 earnings, he said we're talking to the right people about that, about
Mhm.
the responsibility. And
Remember when there was that conference? This is an example of shorts being alarmist. There was this conference a few months ago that AQST fumbled. They didn't actually go to. They said they were going to go. They had the same time around the death of Steve. It was around that same time, and also Libervant court case. So these short sellers kind of convoluted all of that into the reason why AQST is not going. And it turns out the reason they didn't go was just because they were doing other things. Like it wasn't that big of a deal like the shorts were making it out to be. No one remembers that now, but I do because people
no,
were
no, no.
panicking.
Very clearly, the price dropped,
Yeah,
but I think I know why. Do you know why?
I think they were talking to people in there during that time.
They were getting ready. They appear on Nasdaq,
Ah, that's right.
and I guarantee you that was ASTR partners that arranged
Ah,
all of
okay.
that for them. So of course you would miss a conference because these conferences they come they're everywhere. But how many times do you
They
have
were
the
on con,
opportunity to
but it wasn't
appear on
just
that?
AQST, right? It was a group of biotechs ringing the bell.
Yes, there was a
Okay, yeah,
group
yeah.
of people. Yes, but that
Mhm.
was for that.
I forgot that part, but now
Yes,
you mentioned, I remembered.
yeah.
But no one talked about that. Everyone still remembers the negative stuff. Oh, this guy died. All the IP is in his head. Libervant court case. They're gonna run out of money. That's why they don't go to the conference. All this doom and gloom, and now it's over, and nobody brings it up.
The only question you ever have to ask yourself when you see these comments is who are these people that care so much about my investments? That spends
Mm.
every waking moment warning me about this company. Who
Yeah,
are they? You
yeah,
need
yeah,
to answer that for yourself.
yeah.
Okay. They are, I can guarantee you, they're not that kind. They want you to lose money to them. Okay. So that's people don't wake up in the morning and say, "Oh my God, I got to warn these people. They're about to AQST is about to dilute. They did not go to the conference. Don't invest. They missed the conference. Don't invest. No, they're shorts. But yeah, but the thing bringing back to AQST is that there are two things that I think is going to happen. One is, I mean, could be two, but the definite thing that will happen is a partnership with Big Pharma. Dan Barber, he already made it known to the world. Unless you're big, don't bother calling. Okay, we want a company that has big footprint in offices to help us. We don't need another small timer to help us. We need somebody big. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So that will be coming. And secondly, there may be a possibility of a buyout. And because of the change in IR and they're working with ASTR partners, I believe there's a very good chance that AQC is going to be taken out.
And if you, I like how you go under the hood on that one with AASTR. The company specializes in assisting small caps with acquisitions.
Acquisition, merger acquisitions, um, and investors. Okay, so they actually find investors that buy shares on open market. Okay, so if you look at their website and what they do, and they would say there's a section that says investor would buy share from time to time. Okay, so that's part of their job too. So it's mostly finding help companies find funding, funding partners, investors, and M&A. Okay, so they do all those things. So yeah, because of that, I feel like there's a really good chance that there could be a buyout. And a film is such an attractive asset, and the company knows it. Dan knows it. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah. So can we move to IOVA?
Yeah. Something I'm much less experienced with, but I put about 5 to 6 good hours on this. But
You did?
it's been like a week, so
Yeah.
probably
So
forgot most of it.
IOVA, I called this out last year, and I called it out uh, just for the PDUFA play on Amtagvi. I said I look at the clinical trials data. I'm like, it's going to be approved. And surely enough, on February 16, it was approved. Okay. And so it is the first, the drug's name is called Amtagvi. It's a unique company because Amtagvi is not really a drug, it's pill. It's actually a person's own T cell that is kind of taken out and reconstituted back to the patient. Um, so it's a tumor infiltrating lymphocytes. Okay, TIL. That's what it stands for. All right. So the indication for MTAGV is advanced or metastatic melanoma. So these patients are very, very sick. And unfortunately, melanoma, man, is so discreet when people get it. It could be a tiny freckle somewhere in the back of that neck or your butt or somewhere that you don't even notice. And then until you have symptoms, you go to the doctor and you're stage 3, stage 4. So melanoma is one of the deadliest cancer in this country. All right. So so basically, here is the treatment of Amtagvi and what is TIL treatment involved. Okay. So it is indicated for second line. So that means the patient was diagnosed, they get chemotherapy, it works a little bit, 6 months, a year later, maybe it comes back with a vengeance. And then now they do chemo, they maybe doing some radiation, now it's spreading even more. And then there's some immunotherapy. And, one of the popular, and the best one is Keytruda, which is the immune checkpoint inhibitor. And so
Keytruda is a monster, man. When I was
it's a
doing my
monster.
DD,
Yeah,
holy shit, that thing has such good
it,
outcomes.
it's amazing. And so now, so what does Keytruda do? So cancer cells, and then you have T cells here. At first, it was doing well. Chemo would kill some of the tumor cells, and then of course the T cell would kill some, but then it keeps multiplying, and then these T cells get basically worn out, or the T cell has it's called the PD-1. Okay, program death one. It says T cell surface. It serves like a hook, and it hooks onto the cancer cell to kill it. But then these tumor cells get really smart. They have what's called a PDL1, 1L, PD1, like the ligand of PD1. So now when the T cell goes to attach to the cancer cell, now it's attracted to the PDL1. But when that happens, the T cells is inactivated. Okay, that's how smart T cells are. And I tweeted about that yesterday. to kind of give you some background, because I know I'm going to be talking about that. Okay, so so that's how smart they are. So now Keytruda and the other immune checkpoint inhibitors, what they do is they prevent that connection from happening. Okay, so
Yeah.
the T cell can do its job. Okay, so we're good, and then they change again, they mutate again, and now it doesn't help anymore. So the condition keeps progressing. Okay, and so now you have these huge tumors, and that's spread everywhere now: brain, lungs, liver. But you have some T cells that want to fight, and it already attached onto the tumor cells. Okay, this is where this is the T cells that we want, because these T cells already recognize the tumor cells, and a bunch of other T cells, they become dumb. They don't even recognize the tumor cell. Okay, so we don't want. So as you can see, you don't just want to randomly pick any T cells. You only want to choose the T cells already attaching to the tumor cell. And so that's why the MTAG treatment, the first step is to remove a part of the tumor, at least 1.5 centimeters of the tumor, and then get some of the T cells and then multiply them by billions, sometimes 6, 10 billion, 20 billions of them. Okay, so they have that. So now you have these healthy T cells ready to go back and fight. But we don't do that yet. So the first step in treating using MTAG to fight is to give these patients a non-ablative lymphodepletion. Okay, now why do we do that? Remember that T cells are like police officers in the body guarding, foreign agents, and they kill them. But these cancer cells are so smart, they would deactivate a lot of these, and not just that. They don't just deactivate, they tell these T cells to be on this. It's like they become spies for the tumor cells, saying, hey, tell your friend I'm friendly. So these T cells are now working for the cancer cells.
Right.
So they actually compete with the other T cell trying to fight. So the reason for the chemotherapy is to wipe them all out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to wipe them all of the T cells out, and it's going to wipe out some cancer cells as well. So at that stage, the patient is very vulnerable to infections, right? So there's some risk there, but we want to get the bad police out of the way as well. So then after that, we infuse the T cells by the billions. Remember, these T cells already have memory to the tumor. Okay, we don't need to retrain it. It's already recognized who the bad guys are, so it attacks it right away. Okay, but that's not it. Only we don't just let the billions of T cells fight on its own. After that, the day after the patient is infused with IO2, interleukin 2 or proleukin is the brand name. And IO2 it's kind of a chemical messenger in the body. It talks to, that's how T cell talk to, it directs the T cell what to do to ultimately control inflammation. Okay, so IO2 would tell the T cell, go there, do that, kill it. So what happened is, so it's a cytokine. IL-2 is a cytokine. So during COVID, you've heard of the term cytokine storm. That's not what you want. You want to control inflammation, but in a controlled manner. because too much of a reaction, you would die. The patient would die. So IO2, there's some risk involved. So actually, most of the adverse reaction is from the lymphodepletion or the IO2, but not Amtagvi itself. Okay. So what does IO2 or Proleukin do? Proleukin is infused after Amtagvi. It's basically now these T cells become like Avengers. They become super T cells. Okay, so now it's even stronger than it was programmed. So now it only not just fight, but with a lot of strength. All right. So typically there's about 3 to 4 doses of IO2 or Proleukin. All right. And then after that, the patient would stay in hospital for like a week or two, and then they get to see if everything's okay, and then they get sent home. And most of the side effects is within 2 weeks, and the side effects are decreased drastically right after. Um, but it is basically the last line of defense. These patients, once they're identified, they're so weak already. So it's a Amtagvi is a complete lifesaver. Okay, and I've
Yeah.
shared so many stories about patients planning their funerals and they get saved. Now you hear shorts complaining about, oh, the manufacturing, they cannot ever scale it and things like that. Right now the turnaround is 34 days. The manufacturing is getting better because the thing is they are trailblazer in this space. Nobody's ever done what they're doing. So the biggest issue with manufacturing is sometimes they select a patient, but that patient's already too weak. So when that that tumor is removed and they have that T cell, the T cell is too weak, or the patient
Right.
is too weak. So ended
Or
up
the
the patient,
patient doesn't survive,
yeah,
till the Amtagvi is ready.
yes. So there's always issue now. So what they're saying is we are learning a lot. We are picking little healthier patients. They can actually have enough time to wait for the 34-day turnaround. So it's getting better, but there is no argument of the fact that when patients receive this treatment, it saves their lives. Okay, so they. But another thing is they complain about the cash burn of IVOA. Well, the reason cash burn is so high is not because they're losing money through random stuff, because they have so many trials going on. They have non-small cell lung cancer in front line, second line, endometrial cancer, front line, second line,
Mhm.
and then they have Tilvans 301, which is the confirmatory trial for Amtagvi, as well as front line. And then the other trials they have are the next generation TIL trial,
Yeah.
the next generation IO2 trials. So they have 8 or 9 trials going on, and these cancer trials are very costly. But the thing is, though, once they have all of this going, it's all done.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they,
the third line for the melanoma, the third line, it's kind of after first line, which is either Keytruda or Opdivo or Yervoy, which, by the way, like Yervoy and Opdivo in the first line melanoma is 52% at 5-year survival rate, which is really good.
yep,
And then Keytruda by itself is 35%. So, but the problem is that's only, even at the best, it's only half. So the other half of those patients, it's not that good, and they have to go through second line, and then the current standard is for third line is chemo.
yeah,
That's really all they have, and so this is like something that is now an option
I
at least in melanoma, right?
Yeah.
For third line.
Yep. I am very excited about. Well, there's some major catalysts that could totally skyrocket this ticker. Because if you think about it, Dan, so I've shared this with my followers. Just a little bit more than a year ago, it's $18.33. You're getting it at 180 something now or two something now. It's unbelievable, and it's mostly because of the Q1 earning. Because they missed Q1 earning, and a lot of that has to do with they have to shut down manufacturing facilities, both of them, for more than a month. Okay,
Hmm.
and there's all indication that this Q2 is going to be great, but there's some more catalysts. The EU, UK, and Canada approval could be anytime now.
And
They
that's
are
more like those are like quick catalysts too.
huge and quick too because they said anytime in 2025, second half. So
Well, and the
it-
other thing is this Amtavi thing. Besides that third line treatment in melanoma, it's the first of its kind. Other standard at third line is chemo forever. Chemo until the patient dies basically is the standard.
yeah,
Whereas this one comes with a 30% overall survival rate 5 years after. But it's the first ever T cell therapy for a solid tumor that's FDA approved,
yep,
which is
uh,
huge.
exactly. And going back to the share price, trust me, if the if Q1 earning was good,
Hmm.
it will be at 17 or 18. You see what I'm saying? So 1 million
Yeah.
earning and it's now at two something. Are you kidding me?
Well, you
I,
know what else they're doing? Like I know, like this short-term catalyst. So I mentioned the Keytruda monotherapy, right? It's only 35% 5-year overall survival rate. But they're doing a study right now on first in line melanoma with Amtavi with Keytruda. That's happening right now. If that gets to like 60%, that becomes the new, or even 50, that
I
becomes the new
then
standard because it has to beat the Yervoy and Opdivo, right? Which is like 50. So
I
if
am
it could do 55 or 60 with Keytruda plus Amtgavi in that first line, now you get real competition for like first line.
they revealed last year in San Antonio, Keytruda and Amtagvi uh, on frontline non-small
Hmm.
cells lung cancer, and it got 64 something percent ORR, and that's actually harder to treat than melanoma.
Hmm.
So, two vans 301 serves two purposes. One is to confirm MTAC-V. The other one is frontline.
Hmm.
Keytruda is already so good. You add MTAC-V to that, it's going to be incredible.
And
So,
the precedent was Yervoy and Opdivo, right? Those are two
yep,
separately
yeah,
manufactured thing, and then they combined it and they saw 50%, at least in first line melanoma,
yeah.
50% as opposed to 30 each, right? 30 or 20 each. Like you put them together, the math actually adds up, but that's not how science works. But it's got the 50% 5-year overall survival.
I would say, and they are expecting approval. Okay, of the so EU approval. That's the nearest catalyst. The next catalyst is going to be massive. It's going to be back to the teens quickly.
So which is the first catalyst? Like you think this EU
It-
approval or
yeah, EU approval.
okay?
Yeah, and then the next one is happening in 2025. We're
What is that?
months away. Less than 6 months away um, is interim data for non-small cell lung cancer second line
Second line with Keytruda or is by itself?
by itself.
By itself.
If that is positive, yeah, and it's going to be positive. It's
Second line for non-small cell lung
yeah,
cancer.
yeah. because the addressable market for non-small cells is 66 billion versus only several billion for melanoma is massive, massive. Okay. And so I'm very excited about it. And then you have a bunch because they have so many trials that you have updates to all these trials throughout the year.
It's hard to keep track of all these trials, honestly.
It is. It took me a while, but now I kind of have them down. So look at this: melanoma, front
Yeah.
line, second line confirmation, and then front line. Non-small cells lung cancer. Okay, one
But
thing.
the first line melanoma is with Keytruda, right? That's
Correct.
the one in the Tilvance 301.
Yes, but the way to organize your thought is the CEO, interim CEO, actually explained it very easily. He goes, easy to remember is second line, then first line for the three diseases. Okay.
Okay.
Melanoma, second line, front line. Non-small cell lung cancer, second line, front line. Intermediate cancer, second line, front line. That's
Makes sense. It makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So they always go for the worst first, and
And
then
the burden of proof is
yeah,
less restrictive, right? On the higher the risks are of the
yeah,
outcome
yeah,
for the patient.
yeah. And the thing that's exciting too is because they already kind of thinking about next generation too. There are already they have the PD-1 knockout TIL. So what does that mean? So remember I told you a while ago, T cells, it's got the surface marker PD-1, and then what happens is that PD-1 attaches to PD-L1 from the cancer cell, it gets deactivated. Well, why not take that out? Right? You take that out from the T cell. All right. So when you infuse it in, there's no chance of that connecting. So that's the next generation. And then they have the next generation IO2. That's going to be more tolerable for the patients as well. And so really a lot of things, and I'm telling you right now, that if investors are patient with this company at this current price, including Aquestive, okay, the 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 return for this investment for our Vans is exponential, okay,
Right.
versus even Aquestive, because if look at all the disease states and the front line and second line and all of that. Remember, the company said that that in the future their goal is to treat. I mean, like for melanoma alone, to serve 30,000 patients. It's so ridiculous. That
Yeah.
it's going to be a cash cow. Yes.
Well, if you look at Kite Pharma, that got acquired by, I believe, Gilead,
Yep.
they were similar. And I mean, this is nothing similar to TIL, but they were a CAR T therapy. And in 24, they had a 1.9 billion in revenue on their products. So that's saying
I
a lot.
I and I believe that our vans will be bought out.
Oh yeah,
It's designed that way.
both of these things are,
They have
man.
that interim CEO for 3 years now. But I want to address something very important, Dan. As an investor, any biotech, non-biotech, one of the most bullish thing that an investor want to see is insiders buying shares, especially in small biotech, when a lot of times the company wants to keep management by giving them a lot of shares. So they have a lot of free shares already. But when they went on their own to buy additional shares with their own money, the CEO bought 25,000. The regulatory officer bought 5,600, not much. And then recently, Dan Kirby, chief marketing officer, bought 30,000 yesterday or 2 days ago. That could not be more bullish. These guys have a lot of shares. And so shorts would say, yeah, that's not much. They could have bought more.
Shorts are saying on this one, some guy left. I don't know, CEO or CMO. I don't know. I don't know who I don't know what happened before I got in, but some chief executive guy left, and that was perceived as a bearish sign, or got fired. I don't know what happened.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
He probably got fired, but it's not bearish. You know why it's not bearish? Because company has standard. Because I watched one of the conferences that IOVA was at. It's a live broadcast. The dude showed up late. Everybody's already sat down, and he and his backpack came in, sat down. It was embarrassing. He needs to be gone, and he's gone. High standard. That he should have
Who
been
was he?
gone.
The CMO or something? COO?
He was no, I think it was CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
CFO. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad he was gone. So but anyways, no, I'm telling you that I think management is sending investors signals. Some big stuff is going on, and I believe EU approval is imminent because they did the inspections. And part of the shutdown was for that inspection. Thank you for the cheap shares, by the way. And so yeah, I this is
They did inspect. The EU did in their inspections, or the EU authorities did.
actually it's called the EMA,
Mm-hmm.
European Medicines Agency. So they basically do for the EU, UK. I think they also count the Netherlands as well. But anyways, so they did the facility inspections, and
Yeah. So a side joke, funny story. Vinay Prasad from
yeah,
Seaber on
yeah.
the first podcast they did. He said he was amazed that you know how the FDA can do drop-in inspections on a manufacturing facility whenever they want, right? Especially in the U.S. because
Yeah, that's
they
good.
don't they just unannounced.
Yeah.
But they said when it was in Europe, let's say one of the big pharma has a manufacturing facility in Europe, the FDA has to fly over there. The pharma would pick them up and like chauffeur them, so they already know it's going to be an inspection.
Ah,
And he's saying we're going to get rid of all that. We're going to make it like equal playing field to the United States. That just reminded me of that story. I
good for them.
tweeted this thing about the Von Hoff. So there's a new paradigm in
Oh
regards
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
the
That's good stuff.
progression free.
That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
progression free survival. Vinay wrote it in his own book, and I was reading it while listening to this conference. And it's
So
this
share
magic
what you
number.
found out about IOVANs.
Yeah.
How did
So
it stack up?
the progression free ratio, and this for any the progression free survival for any investor that's curious, it has to be better than 1.3. And what is that? That is 1.3 times better in the new drug versus previous therapy for progression free survival. And so for the melanoma refractory cohorts, it got 1.35, and one of the cohorts even got 1.64. And if you use this benchmark for most therapies, they will fail the Von
Yep.
Hoff
Yep.
ratio. Not that guarantees approval,
Well,
but that's something Vinay looks at. He said it himself.
yeah, and thank you for sharing that because and I tweeted this out. People that don't know cancer, and as most investors, they didn't appreciate what that 5-year data when it's released. The price didn't do anything. But in the oncology community, it's an aha moment because nobody's done
That 5-year overall survival is
it.
everything. That is the
Yes, that's the
holy
holy
grail.
grail. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that's why that doctor that I tweeted out, she said this is the new MTAG is the new standard of care for second line melanoma.
Hmm.
So that is every pharmaceutical company's dream for their new drug to be called, new standard of care. Everybody wants to be standard of care. Trust me on this. Trust
Right.
me,
Right.
because it's money, baby.
Of
You know,
course. Of course.
and so to basically to summarize the whole thing is for both AQST and IVOA, IOVAN, um, at the current price, very, very cheap for both of them. But for IOVANs, it's extremely cheap. I am expecting it to be back to 18 within a year and a half. Okay. So they're not getting my share. I have done my research. Now, will it go up to 18 straight up? No. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. There's going to be some setback. It doesn't matter. I am telling you right now, MTAGV is the best, okay, out there in the till space. Okay,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
so freaking good, and people need to appreciate that. Now, one personal story. A friend of mine a month ago found out, just by luck, she she went to the bathroom and there's so much blood. Went to the ER and did all kinds of tests and take X-ray and everything. Found out there was a lump in her lung. She got lung cancer. And good thing was it hasn't spread. It's still localized.
Hmm.
But I was thinking about Amtagvi because I did not know what stage she would be in, right?
Right.
And so I was, I was telling my wife that, we waiting on tests to see if it spread anywhere else. But even if it did, there is a new treatment that she could enroll in clinical trial for MTAC-V, because that's so much. That's how much I believe in MTAC-V. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I think they're running the PD-1 refractory advanced
Yes,
non-small cell. So that's the non-responders to something
it's
like a
anti-PD-1.
Keytruda.
It's an
Uh,
anti-PD-1. Yeah,
mm,
and so yeah. I mean, am I overly positive? Yes, but am I positive backed by research? Hell yes. And when you've done that research and things look that good, you have the right to be that positive. Okay. And the
sure.
thing is, like again, I challenge you. When people challenge me, saying call me a pumper, you compare their research on that ticker versus mine. I challenge you. you know. But you know what they do? I call them cowards, sleazy shorts, because they don't want to reveal who they are. Here I am. You see who I am. You see who Dan is. Okay, you can
I
talk to
mean,
us.
I try to deflate my own stocks. That's what I did with AQST all the way to where we are. Every
Yeah,
time I bought, is there anything I'm wrong here? Anything? And I'm like, there's risks, of course, but I think the low probability versus the high likelihood of approval, and it all boils down to, like you said, I'll never forget, it's about the big product. What
yep,
is it? Anafilm.
yep,
Is that outweigh all the possible risks? I think so. And then same thing for Iovance, the
yeah.
big product.
The both Anafilm just happen to be letter A and tag B.
Hmm, sure.
um, are lifesavers. They keep they will keep patients alive. And I'll have a tweet about that soon.
Hmm.
Okay, so look for that. But I'm very excited about these two companies, and
I can
feel
tell, man.
feel free. It is. I typically don't share my biotech with my personal friends because it's money. You don't wanna. But
Yeah.
with IQST and IOVA, I I finally did. I sent a text to one of my friends this morning. I said, "Hey, look into this because you can get it about two something. It's gonna be 18 something pretty soon. You know, it's great." And then
So you really think 18 soon?
I would say a year and a half.
Okay, that just to let people know what soon
Yeah,
means. Okay.
yeah. Because I'm telling you, with non-small cells, because right now, second line non-small cells lung cancer is a registration phase 2.
Right.
So
Yeah.
accelerated approval. Okay.
Right.
So the moment when that is positive, you can forget 15. You may go back to
And
8.
it's at a that one's at a monotherapy, no? That says a monotherapy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
second line. Yes.
Yeah.
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 Because we already got interim for MTAGV and Keytruda in first line, and it was 64% ORR
For
in
NSL.
in an EGFR positive population, which is the largest population in frontline non-small cells.
I
And
gotcha.
it's unbelievable. So
EGRF positive?
EGFR positive.
Oh, EGFR. Okay.
Yeah. So, but we'll talk more about that as it gets closer. But
This one, unlike AQST, is a lot of moving parts, a lot of things happening at the same time. It's harder to
yeah,
keep
it
up with this
is.
one.
Yes, you're right. It is very complicated, and that's why at the beginning I tried to go back to the cancer cell, the T
Yeah.
cells and cancer cell, hoping that people will get some kind of visual
Yeah.
context of this. But I'll keep posting about it, some educational
Yeah.
videos on that to help you because I
Well, and
don't.
to compare and contrast, like AQST, it makes you more appreciative of, you were saying the manufacturing issues with IOVA. That's one thing AQST won't have is the manufacturing issues. Like they own that. I mean, how many, if they do a partnership deal, very few, there's no precedent really for the ones that do their own
Glad
manufacturing.
you brought that up. So let's say there's a partnership. It's very unique because you get the money from the royalty, but you
Yep.
also get the money for the manufacturing of the film,
Which is huge.
which is
You've got
huge.
companies like Lilly putting billions into U.S. manufacturing
Yeah,
plants. Aquestive's already got that. I think it's
yeah.
in Kentucky or something.
We when we bought shares of Aquestive,
Yeah,
we already paid for the manufacturing. It's
right.
built in, and people don't ever think about stuff like that.
And that's the sword that cuts both ways. So why is there not that much cash on it? Well, we have our own infrastructure.
Yeah,
It's like, well, we're investing in our manufacturer. I think it's in Indiana, right? Or Kentucky. One of those places.
Indiana, Portage,
Indiana.
Indiana.
That's right. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. I
and
see
then
the
the
job
headquarters
postings.
in Warren, New Jersey.
And they're hiring. They're always on LinkedIn. They're always hiring.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, this was good, man. I mean, it's never not good when we talk. And looks like AQST is going to be through the due diligence is going to be boring. It's just the stock will be exciting, but the due diligence will be boring. And
There's not much now besides
uh,
waiting for NDA, possible partnership announcement, and then AdCom announcement, and then AdCom recommendation, and then PDUFA.
yeah,
But I'm expecting all those things to be positive, and I'm expecting to be in a mid to maybe high teens once NFM's approved. So,
oh, sure, sure.
um, but yeah, but thank you for hosting as
Thank
always,
you,
Dan,
Biotech
and thank
Scanner. We
you
have
for watching.
777 if you like numbers right now watching.
Oh, I really appreciate
779, but
your
that was
paying
lucky.
attention. Thank you so much, and talk to y'all on Twitter soon.
Talk to you all there, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.